California, good evening and welcome to the SoCal Sports Show. We have ourselves another busy day going on as the Lakers have now thrown 2 in a row on their little road trip. They lost a close one to the Philadelphia 76ers, but they got drubbed by the Detroit Pistons. This Saturday, the Lakers have a big showdown against the ever-so-hated Boston Celtics. Will the Lakers come out on top, or will they have lost their third row? Also, Long Beach State has had an eventful week and a half or so. Last week they lost to a certain team while getting into, and now some bad news has arisen. The good news for the Big West Conference, however, is that today we'll be having some spring sports this year, as they just got the green light to come back to the spring sports in 2020. Awesome. Also, we had some ups and downs with the LA Kings and the Anaheim Ducks. Which teams did they do well against? Which teams did they struggle against? Also, we have some college sports making their debut in regards to Southern California, as men's water polo and men's swimming sets have all begun their seasons, as well as swimming and diving as well. Which teams are excelling? Which teams are falling flat on their face? All that and more on the SoCal Spring Sports Show. This is Taryn Rodriguez bringing another edition of the SoCal Spring Sports Show here on iSports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. And welcome one, welcome all to the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Hope you are all having an amazing weekend. Hope you all are doing well despite these times. Hope everyone in California is staying dry. As we also say hello to Andrew Hagenbaugh, who just popped in the chat room, says, have yourself a great show, and he says, what's going on? And I appreciate it. And hey, great job when it came to your show earlier today. Andrew is the host of the State of Ohio Sports Show, and he does a top-notch job. That show goes on every Friday at 3 p.m. Pacific Time, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, and he's also the host of the Soccer Scoreboard Show. He does a much better job of talking about soccer than me. I could already tell you all that, and he goes live every Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Pacific Time, 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time. So thank you once again, Andrew, for tuning in. And he also talks a whole lot about Ohio sports. He does a great job getting all the teams like the Cleveland Cavaliers, the Cleveland Browns, the Cincinnati Bengals, heck, even Akron, University of Akron. So he does a great job, and yeah, so definitely tune in and check out Andrew and his 2 shows. And once again, thank you for tuning in, Andrew. Thanks for popping in the chat room. And if I sound good, just let me know. And if I don't, just let me know. Yeah, and I definitely appreciate you saying that. He says, but it is you who does the amazing work. Thanks, Andrew. All right, so now let's get on into some of these sports. But first, we have a lot of sponsors to go through. The first sponsor is Legacy Financial. Last year was a tough year, and it looks like this year might be going down that same path. However, staying positive, keeping your faith, and continuing to work hard is the goal. If you're in a financial struggle at the moment, Legacy Financial is here for you. If you're doing well and want to get to the next level, either way, give them a call. Also, if you're looking for a new opportunity to work for yourself and earn more money part-time, give IO a call at 510-928-2104. Once again, that phone number is 510-928-2104 to book your appointment today. Io and her husband Andrew are just two people on a mission to help families build a legacy. You can follow them on Twitter at legacy_uncut and on Instagram at sims_uncut. Then our next sponsor for iSports Radio is Mom is Always Right Media. Are you feeling overwhelmed with schoolwork? Those essays keeping you up at night? Heaven knows they aren't for me. Don't lose sleep. Just pick up the phone. Mom is Always Right Writing Agency will give you quality essays, and they will always make their deadlines. Sleep soundly knowing they are on the job. And for more information, you can call 626-653-3649. Once again, that phone number is 626-653-3649. Also, when it comes to Mom is Always Right Media, you could always check out their podcast as well. Their first podcast is It Goes Down in the PM. Make sure you check out the new episode of It Goes Down in the PM, brought to you by Mom is Always Right Media, where we help your business from start to finish. Another podcast you could check out regarding Mom is Always Right Media is Coffee After Dark. Don't miss the next chapter of your favorite love story. Check out Season 2 of Coffee After Dark, brought to you by Mom is Always Right Media, where they will help you open your business from start to finish. And then the last sponsor for iSports Radio is the Sports Rundown. Are you a sports fan but have too much going on in your life these days to keep up with the 24/7 sports news cycle? Or maybe you are new to sports and want to understand nuances better. If so, then the Sports Rundown is for you. They are a new podcast that gives you basic, professional, and collegiate sports news, stats, tidbits, and fun facts. By the time you get to work, start that second cup of coffee or finish walking the dog. Enough information to make you dangerous, like Baker Mayfield, see what I did there, while talking about current events, and they will teach you something along the way, like mascots, uniforms, history, feel-good stories, and sports rules. They even cover the Premier League in soccer. New episodes drop every Monday and Friday morning, so give them a listen. And you can also follow iSports Radio on Twitter at iSports Radio and on Instagram at iSports Radio. And you can also like them and follow them on Facebook via iSports Radio. And you could check out the website www.isportsradio.com. So once again, big shout out to Mom is Always Right Media, big shout out to the Sports Rundown, and a big shout out to Legacy Financial, the official sponsor of iSports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. So anyway, now let's get on into the sports. So it really is a shame that my boy Larry B is not in the chat room, because I actually wanted to talk about this first topic. I'm actually going to go a little out of order. I'm going to go from I normally wouldn't do this, but I'm going to start with college basketball first. So there was this one game last week that happened, and fortunately for my team, Long Beach State, they're my alma mater, and they're the school I go to. So there's that little disclaimer. So here's the thing about Long Beach State men's basketball. They had a bye that week because they had no conference games, because that's how their conference schedule worked. So they actually scheduled an opponent that was actually slated to be their opponent back in December, but unfortunately because of their COVID situation, they had to cancel that game altogether. But they found an opponent on Saturday that they could face, and that opponent was none other than Cal Baptist, aka Larry B's alma mater. And it was awesome that my alma mater, my current school, is facing Larry B's alma mater. And for those of you that don't know who Larry B is, he is the founder of iSports Radio, and he is the host of The Defining Moment, 3 and Out College Edition, along with myself, 3 and Out, the main 3 and Out, and then also he is the host of his new show, The Sports Couple Perspective, which comes on at 7 p.m. Pacific Time, 10 p.m. Eastern Time. Definitely do check that out. But anyway, Cal Baptist and Long Beach State faced one another at Cal Baptist in Riverside, and the two faced off against one another in men's basketball. So it actually was looking promising for Long Beach State, because they took an early lead, but then Long Beach kind of let up on the gas and allowed Cal Baptist to come back, because Cal Baptist is surprisingly good this year. They actually looked pretty impressive. Like one of their more standout-ish games was against USC, where Cal Baptist took USC to overtime, and I think USC was like a 19-point favorite or so. Either way, Cal Baptist looks somewhat impressive. Do I think they can win the WAC? I hope so. For the sake of Southern California, I hope Cal Baptist can win the WAC, because it'd be cool to see a Southern California team represent in the NCAA tournament. Yeah! Anyway, alright, so back to the game. Yeah, it could have gone, the game could have gone either way between Long Beach State and Cal Baptist. Like, it looked as if Cal Baptist was attempting to hold on to the lead, but then Long Beach State was trying to make run after run to try to get the game to get the lead back to them. But Cal Baptist was the one leading 42-40 at halftime. It was a close game, and I'm thinking maybe this could actually work out in Long Beach's favor, because this was like I think it was like it wasn't last minute game, but it was scheduled in advance and whatnot. So yeah. Basically the two teams made up their little matchup. So the second half is pretty much where Long Beach State got drubbed. Cal Baptist really let them have it from beyond the arc, and it was just a onslaught in terms of 3-pointers. And unfortunately for Long Beach State, they got thrashed. They got mashed, they got all of the above, and unfortunately for them, for Long Beach State, they lost to Cal Baptist. I don't remember the score. It was a lot to a little, and I was like, gosh dang it, man. I'm looking up the score as we speak. It was 96-75. That was how bad it was. 96 points. That is the third, or the second most. No, the third. No. It is the second most they've given up this season, behind San Francisco's 107 points. Absolutely atrocious. I'm just gonna say that right now. It's like that was not fun. It was pretty disappointing, if you ask me. Like I couldn't like bear to witness that, and I was like, well, I guess Larry B's gonna be letting me have it in terms of rubbing it in my face. So that was that match, and if I see Larry B in the chat room, I will be able to let him dunk on me or just rub it in my face. So there's that. And something I also forgot to mention when it comes to all you Southern Californians is that I hope you all are staying dry, because it's supposed to rain for the most part today, and I think it's supposed to rain next week. I think it's next Tuesday. Either way, I hope you didn't have plans for going outside, because that have unfortunately been dampened by the weather. Okay, it wasn't that funny, but I appreciate the laughter, children. But that's enough about college basketball in regards to that game. I do want to talk a little more about Long Beach State's news. So, unfortunately, they got the bad news of their program is now on pause yet again because of another COVID outbreak. So, unfortunately for Long Beach State men's basketball, their games against UC San Diego and UC Santa Barbara next week have been postponed, but most likely canceled. It all depends. But it really sucks for Long Beach State, because they haven't really had a whole lot of matches to deal with, because last week they had a bye. The previous week they had to cancel their games against, I think I actually forgot. It was Cal State Northridge. And then they just haven't been able to have consistent matches. Like last week, they were lucky to get Cal Baptist because of everything that was going on with the Lancers and whatnot. So, unfortunately for Long Beach, that is pretty much the news for them. Hopefully, it's just a false positive, because sometimes that has happened for like some of these programs, but But it really does suck for them because I hope they can get some matches going because the season's winding down for them. That's already 4 matches they've lost right off the bat, and then they lost some to Northridge. They lost some to Riverside because of that COVID outbreak that happened in December. They lost some December non-conference matches. So Long Beach State's going to be behind the 8 ball, and depending on how the Big West is going to finalize that in terms of like the Big West Conference tournament is going to also depend on what's going to be their fate. So, we'll see. So, now let's get on into some happier Big West Conference news, as the Big West Conference has approved to have spring sports this upcoming, well, later on in the year, but you know what I mean. The Big West Conference has approved to have spring sports, which is absolutely awesome. So this was just released today. The Big West Conference announced today the establishment of 2021 return to play and scheduling protocols in the sports of baseball, softball, men's volleyball, and women's water polo. The Big West Conference is excited to take the next step forward to spring competition, said Dan Butterly, the Big West Conference commissioner. He also just talks about other things. In baseball, the regular season will consist of 4-game weekend series against each conference opponent. Teams may schedule non-conference games prior to the Big West schedule, but may play only one opponent per week once league play begins. Midweek contests are not allowed during conference play. Conference play will begin on Friday, March 19th, and will run through Saturday, May 29th. And then softball will have a 3-game series during conference play. Schools are permitted to add a 4th game to the series, which could be designated as a non-conference game. As baseball, or just like baseball, teams are only permitted to play one team per week, meaning if Long Beach State plays UC Irvine, they can't play anyone else, which is reasonable enough. Teams are only permitted to play one team per week during the conference season and are prohibited from participating in any midweek contests during that time. Conference play will begin on Friday, March 19th, and will run through Saturday, May 15th, 2021. The 10-match Big West men's volleyball schedule will feature a 2-game series under the one opponent per week provision during conference play. Schools are permitted to schedule a 3rd match in the series to count as a non-conference contest. Teams may play matches earlier in the conference schedule if both schools agree. However, if teams move up their contest and wish to play again later in the season, the 2nd series will not count toward their conference standings. Conference play begins on Thursday, March 11th, and runs through Saturday, April 17th, 2021. The season culminates in the Big West Men's Volleyball Championship presented by Hawaii Tourism, which will take place at the Simplify Arena at Sheriff Center on the campus of University of Hawaii from April 26th through April 24th. I'll be talking more about this on Set Point, by the way. So women's water polo will play each Big West opponent once during the conference season. Teams will have the option of adding a second non-conference match against their conference opponent. Conference matches may be played earlier in the schedule if mutually agreed. If teams move up their contest and wish to play again later on in the season, it will not count toward conference standings. In addition, any matches scheduled between Big West opponents outside of their conference schedule footprint would also be deemed non-conference. Conference play begins on Friday, March 12th, and ends Sunday, April 25th, 2021. The Big West Women's Water Polo Championship will be held April 30th to May 2nd. The Big West annually conducts championships in the sports of men's and women's tennis, men's and women's golf, men's and women's track and field, and women's beach volleyball. Championships are planned for this spring. All institutions will continue to adherence to medical and COVID-19 protocols established by the Big West Conference and based on the CDC, NCAA, federal, state, and local guidelines. And then basically it just talks about the protocols and whatnot, and says you could check out the Big West Conference website for schedules and competition, start dates, and whatnot. And I'll be talking about this as conference play and as most of these seasons start to go by or that begin to start. So there's that. So that's good. That's absolutely good news that Big West Conference spring sports are back, and I'm very happy. I could not be more happy to see that, and I hope that everyone minds their p's and q's, and just please don't ruin it for everyone else, and don't ruin it for all of California. Unfortunately, this is not a good time for the high school kids because they're still uncertain about their sports seasons because the Southern California Southern Section Committee in terms of spring sports have canceled all fall sports championships such as football, men's and women's water polo, or not men's and women's, boys and girls water polo, girls volleyball, tennis, and everything else that's like a fall sport. However, the season's not canceled. They'll be able to get some matches in depending on what the guidelines are. As some of you might know, Gavin Newsom has lifted the stay-at-home ban and whatnot. So there's that. I won't talk too much about high school sports just because we have a lot to get into. So that's enough about the high school sports and enough about the college sports. I'll be talking more about that later on in the show. So for right now, let's get into some Los Angeles Lakers action. So the Lakers are still on their little road trip. It's been a busy week for them as they've just been on the road quite a bit and it never seems to end. So last Saturday, the Lakers took down the Chicago Bulls 101-90. Yeah, that was to be expected. They even got to the point where the Lakers led by 30. The final score does not dictate how one-sided this game was. No offense to the Bulls or anything, but the Lakers just had that game from start to finish. Like, the only reason why it was this close was because the Lakers pretty much yanked their starters and put in their reserves and garbage time and whatnot. So Lakers won that game, which was cool and all. Then the Lakers had themselves a close affair with the Cleveland Cavaliers as the Lakers beat the Cavs 115-108, and as we're seeing in the chat room, Andrew Hagenbaugh is talked about this as well. LeBron James just came up big. He had 46 points, 19 for 26 on field goals, and he also chipped in 6 assists, which was pretty cool. I'm not going to lie. He also added 8 rebounds, too. So if you had him on your fantasy basketball team, I am happy for you, because I actually have LeBron on my fantasy basketball team. Andrew says, go Lakers. Need them to beat Boston so the Cavs can move up in the East. I will be getting into that rather shortly. So this week has just been a tough week for the Lakers and their fans, because after the Lakers won on Tuesday in LeBron's homecoming, Tuesday was just a emotional day for the Lakers because it marked the 1-year anniversary of Kobe Bryant and his daughter Gianna, along with 7 other people passing away, which was completely sad. And I'm pretty sure that has to be on the mind of the Lakers players and the Lakers organization, because we really lost a legend, and he was gone way too soon. Age 41 is just way too early for him to go, and it really sucks. And I hope Kobe Bryant is still looking down on the Lakers, and hopefully he's still proud of the fact that the Lakers are still in good hands with Frank Vogel and LeBron and AD and all those other players. So yeah, Tuesday was a tough day for everyone Lakers related, especially the players. So Wednesday, the Lakers pretty much traveled to Philadelphia to play the Philadelphia 76ers, and this time the Lakers lost to the 76ers 107-106. Lakers were actually trailing for the most part in this game. They actually trailed by as many as like 15 or 16 in the first half, and they only made 1 3-pointer in the first half, which was very concerning. I was like, really? Lakers cannot win if they're only making 1 3. And then they tried to keep getting the game toward them, but the Sixers just said, nope, we're taking this game. And they did everything, and every time the Lakers had an answer, the 76ers just rebounded and bounced back and had an answer of their own. And it looked like the Lakers were pretty much going to be on the losing end of this game, but then the Lakers suddenly started to make a furious comeback. They were making their jump shots, they were getting stops, and it got to the point where the Lakers led 106 to 105 with 11 seconds left after an Anthony Davis layup, courtesy of LeBron James, and everyone was thinking, Lakers are going to win. But I was thinking, that's too much time, because 11 seconds is pretty much a whole lot of time to get a couple dribbles off and a good look. And sure enough, the 76ers did get that as they went to Tobias Harris, who shot a mid-range jumper over Alex Caruso. And the Lakers didn't have any timeouts, which really stunk. And they couldn't get a clean look off in time, and that was the Lakers' first road loss of the season. They went 10-0, but unfortunately lost to the 76ers. But I had a feeling they were going to lose to the Sixers, because the Sixers are surprisingly good. Doc Rivers, the former Clippers coach, has done a great job in turning that team around, and I think they could pose a huge threat in the East. The East has just been all over the place. Even the Knicks and Cavaliers are good, as Andrew Hagenbaugh just noted that on his show. So I think the East is going to be fun, and you also have other teams that are pretty decent, like the Pacers, the Celtics, the Nets are starting to pick up steam with James Harden and Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant and whatnot. So there's that. So recently yesterday, the Lakers got to face the Detroit Pistons, and everyone's thinking, this one should be a piece of cake. And even I was thinking that I think the Lakers can bounce back with a win tonight against the Pistons, or a win last night against the Pistons. Unfortunately, that was not the case, because I somewhat had this feeling that the Pistons game was going to be a trap game for the Lakers. I don't want to use the term back to back as an excuse, but the Pistons also had to go through that as well. So I think people who use the back to back excuse kind of also have to factor that in with the Pistons. But here's the thing about the Lakers. I think the Lakers there's a huge target on their backs, and every team is going to want to take their best shot at them. Whether they're the Pistons, the Nuggets, the Clippers, the Celtics, the Heat, everybody is going to want a great shot against the Lakers. That's kind of like their Super Bowl or their NBA championship, to try to beat the Lakers and whatnot. So I had a feeling it was going to be somewhat of a trap game. Also, the Lakers didn't have Anthony Davis, because he had a quad contusion. Or contusion, I'm sorry, not intusion. But he should be good to go on Saturday against Boston. But the Lakers lost to the Pistons 107-92, which was quite disappointing. Lakers actually got it down to as little as 2, but then the Pistons just took over and nothing just went the Lakers' way, which was completely disappointing. So, as Andrew mentioned, he says he wants the Lakers to beat he wants the Lakers to beat the Celtics so the Cavs can move up. So the Lakers' next game is Saturday against the Boston Celtics at 5:30 p.m. Pacific time. That's going to be a great game. It's always a great game when the Lakers and Celtics face one another. And the Celtics are kind of semi-reeling as well, as they just recently lost to the San Antonio Spurs on Wednesday night. So Celtics will be a little bit more rested, having 2 days off and having home court. But I expect the Lakers to try to bounce back, because it's been a while since they've last lost back-to-back games when it came to like the bubble and whatnot. And I don't even remember the last time they lost back-to-back-to-back. But if I'm the Lakers, whatever they're struggling with, they really got to unstruggle from it, because the West is starting to pick up steam with some of these teams like the Utah Jazz and the Los Angeles Clippers. And heck, maybe even the Denver Nuggets might be starting to pick up steam in that conference. And also, don't sleep on the Rockets, because they're starting to look pretty decent. Suns are starting to slip, but they're still above 500. The Spurs are surprisingly looking good. And don't sleep on the Warriors as well, even though they lost last night as well. So West is going to be also interesting, but as for the Lakers, they play the Celtics on Saturday, which is tomorrow, and I think that's going to be a fun game. Then on Monday, the Lakers continue their little road trip against the Atlanta Hawks. That's going to be a Monday game at 4:30 p.m. Pacific time, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. The Hawks, in my opinion, have improved, and they can actually go to the postseason as well. I think they have good key pieces. I think they have Rajon Rondo and Avery Bradley. They also definitely have Onyeka Okongwu, the standout from USC, who just recently made his NBA debut, which is cool. I'm glad Big O is making an impact for the Hawks. So looking ahead to next week, the Lakers will finally return home to Staples Center, where they'll play the Denver Nuggets in a rematch of last year's Western Conference Final on next Thursday at 7 p.m. Pacific time. That's going to be on TNT, so basically they got prime time. That's going to be fun right there, and I'm really looking forward to it. As for the Lakers as a whole, I'm not overly concerned. I'm not disappointed on on them losing, because I don't see because people who think that the Lakers are going to go 72-0 is laughable. The Lakers are obviously going to lose a couple games along the way, but some of their opponents are actually quite legit. Like, some of their opponents are actually like playoff contenders, like the Trailblazers, the Clippers, the Spurs, the Sixers, and whatnot. Their only bad loss happened last night, and that was against the Pistons, which are a complete train wreck. So to me, I think it's not too big of a deal for the Lakers to worry, but I think when it comes to their quality losses, I think that can't be overlooked. Because I know they only had one bad loss. They've only got one bad loss as of right now, but I think that the Lakers will be fine. Even Frank Vogel said they'll be fine, and they just had an off night. And teams like the Lakers cannot always have hot shooting nights. And you kind of also have to make note of what's happened this past week. The Lakers are having to travel all over the place. They had the 1-year anniversary of Kobe's passing and Gianna's passing, and it's just been tough for them physically and mentally. Like, they were lucky to even try to get a possible comeback against the 76ers, but they just fell short. So I think the Lakers are fine, and I think the games will start to truly matter once the regular season reaches its climax. And personally, I think everyone doesn't need to hit the panic button. I will also say this, like, I don't think Laker fans should be bagging on AD just because AD has been battling through a lot of pain. Like I said, he has a leg. He sat out last night with a leg contusion, and that stuff hurts, man. So I think people need to cool off against AD, because AD, the amount of pain that man had to play through in the bubble playoffs and in the NBA Finals was quite admirable, and Laker fans should be thanking their lucky stars he's a Laker and not a Pelican and whatnot. So that's kind of my little spiel on the Lakers right there. So now let's go to the other side of Southern California in terms of the NBA, which is the Clippers. So the Clippers had themselves a solid week last week. Last week they beat the Oklahoma City Thunder 120-106, which was not too surprising. Then they beat the Thunder again. This time it was a little closer. It was 108-100. Back-to-back wins over the Thunder. Looked pretty good. And it looked like everything was going fine in Clipperland. Until they got the news that Patrick Beverley, I think it was Paul George, or was it Lou Williams? I'm not sure. And Kawhi Leonard, it was one of those two. Either came into someone that got into contact with COVID, or they got COVID themselves, and they all had to sit out of Tuesday's game against the Atlanta Hawks, in which that actually kind of mattered for them, because the Hawks wound up beating the Clippers 108-99. And Trae Young was obviously Trae Young. And the Clippers really missed Kawhi and I think was Paul George when their leading scorer was Reggie Jackson, who had 20 points. That is pretty much that's pretty much where the Clippers offense went. And they only shot 40%, which isn't bad, but compared to the Hawks' 46.3%, it's kind of if you ask me. And they only made 8 threes out of a possible 26, while the Hawks made 10 threes out of a possible 26. So there's that. So there's that too. But the Clippers did bounce back with a solid win over the Miami Heat yesterday. They beat the Heat 109-105. Impressive win for the Heat, considering they actually got back Kawhi, Paul George, and Pat Beverly, because those three are like the heart and soul of the team. Like, Kawhi is basically the all-around packaged guy, while Paul George is the offensive spark, while Pat Beverly is the defense and the guy that likes to get up in your grill and whatnot and loves to talk trash and get in your head and whatnot. So there's that. So as for the Clippers tonight, they are currently playing the Orlando Magic. They currently lead by 4. I expect the Clippers to win that game. I don't really know how the Clippers could lose to the Magic, because they have all their players back. They should not be using the whole back-to-back thing, because they are currently in the state of Florida. They don't need to fly. They just need to take a bus over to Orlando and play the Magic. So there's that. So other than the game tonight, the Clippers also play the New York Knicks on Sunday at 10 a.m. Pacific time, 1 p.m. Eastern time at Madison Square Garden. So the Clippers will get a shot at the new look Knicks. So that should be a fun game right there. And then the Clippers will also stay in New York, as they'll travel to Brooklyn to face the Brooklyn Nets. They're gonna also get They're gonna get a good look at the new look Brooklyn Nets with KD, Kyrie, and Kevin Durant. I'm sorry, not Kevin Durant. I just said Kevin Durant twice. James Harden. So that's also going to be a exciting matchup between the Clippers and the Nets. And then I believe this is like their last, and then their last game on their little so-called mini road trip. The Clippers play the Cleveland Cavaliers next Wednesday, which I don't mean to say this in a negative way, and this is no offense to the Clippers, but Andrew, I want your Cavaliers to beat the Clippers next Wednesday. It'll shut up all their so-called Clippers fans. Because I'm already seeing some Clippers fans flex their muscles, like the infamous Marcellus Wiley, who's just saying, "Oh, Lakers are no longer relevant. They're no longer the top dog of the Western Conference." It's like, shut up, dude. It's like, when the next thing you know, the Clippers are going to be landing Bradley Beal, heaven forbid. And people that are saying the Clippers are better than the Lakers now are basically the same type of people that are saying Justin Herbert is better than Aaron Rodgers, which is completely not true. Like, when the Clippers win a championship ring, then we can talk. Or when they make it out of the second round, then we could talk about the Clippers possibly being an NBA championship contender. But until then, I don't want to hear any Clippers fans flexing their muscles and just showboating everybody, and especially on Lakers fans, that the Clippers are relevant. So there's that. Anyway, next Friday the Clippers play the Celtics at Staples Center, which should be fun and whatnot. I was gonna say that's gonna be a semi-homecoming for Doc Rivers, but I forgot Rivers is the coach of the 76ers, which that's even more fun, because Doc Rivers used to coach the Celtics. Hate 2008. Anyway, as for the standings for the Lakers and Clippers, the Clippers are currently second in the Western Conference at 14-5, while the Lakers are third in the conference at 14-6. And the Clippers lead the Pacific Division by a half a game. They also have the tiebreaker over the Lakers, which, oh boy, we get to see more Clippers fans flexing on the on Twitter and on Instagram and on everything social media. So if you see me quote tweeting and saying, and there it is, Clippers fans are starting to flex just because it's the regular season and whatnot. But it's whatever. It's only the regular season, and I'm not worried about nothing, man. So that's gonna be it for the NBA and whatnot. So before I get into my break, I actually want to talk about the Chargers' most recent hires in terms of coordinators, and I don't know if I actually talked about this, but I actually talked about I never really talked about this, but former Charger Philip Rivers has called it a career, and it's saddening because he never got a chance to win a ring nor go to the Super Bowl. So it sucks but Philip Rivers had himself a very impressive career, and I was happy for all the accomplishments he made. I hope he does sign a one-day contract with the Chargers so he can retire a Charger. So I hope that happens. So anyway, now let's go to the the Chargers' new acquirements via coaches and coordinators. So their new offensive coordinator is no longer Shane Steichen. It is Joe Lombardi, who I believe is the former offensive coordinator for the New Orleans Saints, which is pretty good. I think if he was able to give the Saints a lot of success back then, I think this is a good hire. And then their new defensive coordinator taking the place of the current Raiders defensive coordinator. I'm already blanking on his name. Gosh dang it. Gus Bradley, that's his name. Is Ronaldo Hill, the former Denver Broncos coordinator, which it's a good hire. Like, he gets to... Okay, for those of you questioning this hire, I think this is a good hire for multiple reasons. One, he gets to reunite with Chris Harris Jr., because CHJ played in Denver while Hill was the defensive coordinator with the Broncos. Number two, he also got to work with defensive players such as Von Miller and then Kareem Jackson and whatnot. I think he'll be good for the Chargers' defensive players. Do I think they can be elite? Do I think they could be an elite defense? Possibly, but it's not going to happen overnight. So there's that. And then the last recent hire for the Chargers is their special teams coordinator, Darius Swinton II, the former special teams coordinator for the Arizona Cardinals, which I think this is a good hire because the Cardinals haven't had too many special teams issues, and also he takes big pride in when it comes to like special teams and whatnot. So I think this is a good hire for the Chargers. I think they're hitting the mark when it comes to all their coordinator and when it comes to their coordinator hires. So I think the Chargers are starting to shape up and look good in terms of coaches. And I think Ronaldo Hill. Yeah, and I forgot to mention Ronaldo Hill also joined also coached with Brandon Staley when he was the defensive coordinator with the Broncos. So I think this is going to look pretty promising for the Chargers. I'm actually excited for next season when it comes to the Chargers. I think the Chargers have big things. They just got to keep everyone healthy. They need to keep everyone healthy. Unfortunately for the Chargers, their quarterback coach, Pep Hamilton, is no longer on the roster. He is now going... It's looking like Pep Hamilton is going to be the offensive coordinator for the Seahawks or the Steelers or anyone along those lines. So I did hear that the new quarterbacks coach of the Chargers will be Shane Day. I believe he is the son of Ryan Day, the Ohio State football coach, if I'm not mistaken. If I am mistaken, then definitely let me know, Andrew, if you're still in the chat room. But anyway, I think this is I think this is also a decent hire. If he really is related to Ryan Day, then that's actually pretty good. And I think the Chargers can work off that. if they could work if Justin Herbert can work well with a former XFL coach, he could definitely work well with Shane Day. So I am totally down with this hire. I think the Chargers are striking gold. I just hope they can continue to strike gold with their hires and make a big splash in free agency, and hopefully they don't whiff on the draft. Like, they definitely need to boost their offensive line. They cannot afford to mess that up. Like, if they mess up and draft a defensive player in the first round, I will be disappointed. So, yeah, and I'm definitely thinking that the Chargers take Christian Darrisaw or Elijah Vera Tucker from USC, and Darrisaw is I believe he's from Virginia Tech, if I'm not mistaken. Either way, the Chargers need to get an offensive tackle. Like, they cannot afford to go anywhere else. They don't need any more wide receivers, unless, like, that's what free agency is for. And there are plenty of noteworthy free agents that they can get. And who knows if they'll be my only concern is their tight end position. I don't know if Hunter Henry. I hope they can keep Hunter Henry. I think Hunter Henry would still be a great addition, but I have been hearing rumors that the Colts are trying to reach out to him. But here's the thing. Don't the Colts have like a bunch of tight ends already? They have like Trey Burton and Jack Doyle, and they have Mo Alley Cox. It's like, how many tight ends do the Colts need? It's like, you took our quarterback. Well, the quarterback went there. Rivers went to the Colts, but you got to take our tight ends too. I think the Chargers need to lock up Hunter Henry. If not, they got to get a better tight end in free agency. But I don't know if there are any better tight ends. I know Jared Cook is a tight end. He's getting up there in age, though. Robert Tonyan of the Packers is a restricted free agent. Trey Burton is a free agent. Gronkowski is a free agent, but they don't need him. Like, Gronk is kind of up there in age, and he's not the Gronk from the New England Patriots, that's for sure. But either way, it's too early to look into free agency. Like, when the time comes, when it comes to free agency or when it comes to like trades, then I will talk more about that. But for right now, there won't be a whole lot of Chargers news. There hasn't been a whole lot of Rams news as of late, so yeah. So we could just move on from the football standpoint of things. I also should mention that I'll be talking about University of San Diego football as well as Cal Poly football once the spring rolls around or gets into full effect. Their seasons start in March, and remember, the FCS postponed their season until the spring season. So unlike the FBS, which was able to chug through its season, the FCS will have its own season in spring. So I'm looking forward to that. So that's enough right now for the football aspects of things. So now let's jump into some NHL, then we'll jump into our first break. So the Ducks and the Kings both have the same records, and they have scored the same amount of points, which is quite funny. So let's go on into the Anaheim Ducks because they are my team. So the Ducks lost to the Minnesota Wild last night by a score of 5-3. I'm sorry, the Ducks lost to the Coyotes 3-2. I was wondering, wait, 5-3? That doesn't seem right. But the Ducks lost to the Coyotes 3-2 because the Coyotes are kind of sneaky, and I'm surprised and I was disappointed that the Ducks lost to the Coyotes because I don't think the Coyotes are supposed to be that good, but it is what it is. So Jakob Silfverberg scored one goal for the Ducks. I think that's his first goal. And yes, people, for the last time, it is not pronounced Jacob Silfverberg, it's Jakob. If I get someone going up to me and telling me Jacob Silfverberg, I will flip. I promise you. Like, no Ducks fan, every Ducks fan should know that. And also, every Ducks fan should know that Anaheim Stadium or Honda Center will forever be known as Arrowhead Pond. Fight me about it. Anyway, the second goal from the Ducks came from Danton Heinen, which which is cool, I guess. One of the first assist, well, one of the assists from the Ducks from last night came from Comtois, and then the second assist came from Cam Fowler. So that's pretty much your scoring right there. And then in terms of saves, John Gibson had 34 saves, which is, or no, he had 31 saves. The Coyotes got 34 shot attempts, which unfortunately they were able to connect on 3 of them, and that was pretty much that. Earlier in the week, however, the Ducks were able to beat the Coyotes 1-0, as John Gibson had 31 saves. Well, the only goal scored of the match was courtesy of Danton Heenan, as he had the only goal of the night, and it was unassisted. And once again, John Gibson had 31 saves and allowed no goals against the Coyotes. That was absolutely amazing. I was happy for the Ducks. That was their second straight win prior to that. Their first win up of that 2-game winning streak came against the Colorado Avalanche. And apparently this was an upset, as the Ducks beat the Avalanche 3-1. When it comes to like the Ducks and beating some of these teams, I think that we're going to be using the term upset a lot, as John Gibson had 32 saves, as he only allowed 1 goal. As for the goal scores of the Ducks, that was courtesy of Jakob Silverberg, who had 1 goal. Ricard Raquel had 1 goal. And then the last goal came from Hampus Lindholm, who had 1 goal as well. Assists were courtesy of Carter Rowney, who had 1 assist. Adam Henrique had 1 assist. And Ryan Getzlaff had 1 assist as well, as the Ducks once again won that matchup 3-1. So good on the Ducks. And then last Friday, the Anaheim Ducks lost a heartbreaker in overtime to the Colorado Avalanche, losing 3-2, which broke everyone's heart. John Gibson had a whopping 29 saves, but unfortunately it was all for naught because the Ducks allowed that 1 goal in overtime, which is very frustrating if you ask me. Anyway, the goal scorers for the Ducks in last Friday's game against the Avalanche was Adam Henrique, and then the other goal was courtesy of Hampus Lindholm. In terms of assists, Ricard Raquel and Jakob Silverberg handled the assists, and that was that for the Ducks in their matchups. So, as for the Ducks this week, they are off tonight, as they have a game on Saturday against the St. Louis Blues. They have back-to-back games as well. They're back at home at the Honda Center. I still think it's called the Pond. Against the St. Louis Blues, and both those games are going to be Saturday and Sunday. Saturday's game is going to be at 6 p.m. Pacific time. Sunday's game will be at 5 p.m. Pacific time. And then on Tuesday, we got the big-time matchup between the Kings and the Anaheim Ducks. The crosstown showdown, as the Ducks and Kings will be facing one another on Tuesday at Staples Center. That's going to be a very fun match right there. And after that, the Ducks won't have another game until next Friday, when they play the San Jose Sharks at Honda Center. And then they'll face the Sharks yet again on Saturday at Honda Center as well. So that's pretty much that for the Duckies right there in terms of their games and their past games and their future games and whatnot. So now let's get on into the LA Kings. So the Kings, like I said, they have the same record as the Ducks, and just like last night, the Kings lost just like the Ducks, except the Kings lost to the Minnesota Wild 5-3. So it was basically more so of an offensive night for the Wild, as it seems like the Kings don't have an answer for the Wild. It seems like they always find a way to lose. Anyway, in terms of goals scored, one of the goals scored was courtesy of Dustin Brown, who had 1 goal. Alex Iafallo had 1 goal, and Drew Daughtry added 1 goal for the Kings as well. As for assists, that was courtesy of Michael Amadio, who had 1 assist, while Brown had 1 assist, and apparently Anze Kopitar had 2 assists. Some of those assists might have been like from own goals or whatnot. So either way, I don't think. Either way, I don't know if some of these assists are correct. Cale Clegg had an assist, and then Drew Daughtry also had an assist. But again, I think some of those assists might have. And then, yeah, like I said, Anze Kopitar had 2 assists. But I think some of those assists might have been ricocheted off of shots from the Minnesota Wild players. As for saves, Jonathan Quick had 23 saves. I feel bad for him because he gave up 5 goals, and that's not something you want as a goalie. As for Tuesday's game against the Minnesota Wild, the LA Kings beat the Wild 2-1, which is some good stuff right there for the LA Kings, as Calvin Peterson had 32 saves, and he only allowed 1 goal, which is really nice. As for goals scored, one of the goals scored was courtesy of Curtis McDermott, who had 1 goal, and the other goal was courtesy of Carl Grundstrom, who had the other goal as well. As for assists, Jeff Carter had 1 assist for the Kings, while Andreas Athanasiou had 1 assist as well. And like I said, Calvin Peterson had 32 saves, which is quite a good night for him. I guess they're giving Jonathan Quick load management or whatnot, but either way, I'm pretty sure Jonathan Quick is up there in age, so yeah. So, as for last Sunday, the Kings straight up drubbed the St. Louis Blues 6-3. I even made a little pun on the SoCal Supreme Sports Show Twitter saying the Kings were singing anything but the Blues on Sunday as they beat St. Louis 6-3, and that was fun. I was quite surprised to see the Kings come out on top, because St. Louis is one of the more impressive teams. I guess the Blues also had a. Oh wait, no, they didn't. I was gonna say maybe they had an own goal scored, but they didn't. So, in terms of goals scored, Elias Anderson had 1 goal. Carl Grundstrom had 1 goal. Alex Iafallo had 1 goal. Anze Kopitar had 1 goal and 2 assists, which is impressive. Gabriel Vilardi had 1 goal, while Drew Daughtry added the other goal. So in terms of assists, that was courtesy of Matt Roy, who had 1 assist. Cale Clegg, who had 1 assist. Trevor Moore had 1 assist. Like I said, Anze Kopitar had 2 assists. Adrian Kempe had 2 assists as well. Dustin Brown had 1 assist. In terms of saves, Jonathan Quick had 28 saves. So it seems like the Kings are going with a little back and forth action in terms of like goalies, which is smart, because I'm pretty sure Jonathan Quick is getting up there in age, and they don't want him to go on back-to-back nights, which could be taxing for him. And then last Saturday's game between the Kings and the Blues ended up with the Blues winning 4-2. So, in terms of goals scored by the Kings, Dustin Brown and Adrian Kempe each had 1 goal scored, while in terms of assists, Anze Kopitar and Alex Iafallo each had 1 assist as well. And then I guess Drew Daughtry and Matt Roy had 1 assist too. And then Calvin Peterson had 26 saves. Again, I think some of those assists might have been on on goals scored courtesy of the whatchamacallit, the opposing team, but I digress. I'm not the biggest hockey expert. However, in terms of hockey, we are getting another show back, and it's a familiar one in terms of hockey, as the Neutral Zone will be making its return, as once again, the Neutral Zone is back, and I cannot be more happy, as that will be airing every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Pacific Time, 11 p.m. Eastern Time, and that's going to be hosted by Blake Sulzer, who is a diehard Nashville Predators fan, and that's going to be fun. I really can't wait for the neutral zone to get back, as it's going to be Blake Sulcer and Adam Ziski. So we've got two Adams. We've got Adam Karnick and Adam Ziski, which is fun. So back to the Kings. So the Kings' next game is not for a while. The Kings' next game is not going to be for quite some time, as according to their schedule on ESPN, their next game is going to be against the Ducks, which is Tuesday. So I kind of find it weird that the Kings are getting all this rest while the Ducks are having to go out and play. But they've played the same amount of games, and they have the same amount of points, and they have the same amount of wins and losses. So I kind of find it weird that the Kings get a little bit of a few days off. But I digress. So this upcoming Tuesday, the Kings play the Ducks at Staples Center. Then the Kings travel to Sin City to play the Las Vegas Golden Knights next Friday. And then, not this Sunday, but the following Sunday, the Kings will wrap up their 2-game series against the Las Vegas Golden Knights. The Kings-Ducks game will be at 7 p.m. Pacific time. And once again, that's going to be on Tuesday, February 2nd. And then next Friday's game against Las Vegas will be at 7 p.m. Pacific time, 10 p.m. Eastern time. And then the following Sunday's game against the Kings and Golden Knights will be a 12 p.m. Pacific time start time and a 3 p.m. Eastern time start time for the Kings versus the Golden Knights on Sunday, February 7th. So that's pretty much your hockey bit right there, as, like I said, the Kings and the Ducks are both 3-3 and 2, and they both have 8 points, which is quite funny. I guess misery loves company, but who am I to judge? But on that note, I think that's going to be it for the hockey, and we're going to take ourselves a quick little break. When we come back, we've got a lot of college sports to get into, such as like water polo, we've got swimming, tennis, and we've obviously got basketball to talk about. So definitely don't move a muscle. You're listening to the SoCal Supreme Sports Show right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. We'll be right back after this.
Hey sports fans, do you like wine? Well, we've got the show for you. This is Let's Wine About Sports, a show where we talk about wine and sports simultaneously. From the classic Cabernet Sauvignon all the way down to the grapes that you've never even heard of before. Oh yeah, we cover it all. And we'll talk about a little bit of sports as well. Football, hockey, collegiate, women's sports, it doesn't matter. We're going to talk about it all, and we're going to whine about it all. So join me Monday at 8 p.m. on IU Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's going on, football fans? This is me, your boy Larry, inviting you to join myself, Callum Reynolds, Mike Pat, and John Felipe for one of the most electrifying football shows you have ever heard. 3 and Out, right here at IE Sports Radio. Recap of the week before, a preview of what's to come, and of course, 3 hardcore head-to-head prime-time face-offs each week. You don't want to miss it.
Back with segment 2 of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. You can check out all of our amazing shows right here on IE Sports Radio, whether it's through YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, TuneIn, Spotify, you name it. And definitely do check out 3 and Out. I believe there's going to be a primetime face-off this week, if I'm not mistaken, because I don't know how Super Bowl week is going to work, but theoretically this week would be the Pro Bowl. But since there is no Pro Bowl, they're going to be honoring the players that made the Pro Bowl. I'm not too big of a Pro Bowl guy. Like that's just me, but I'm just not interested in the Pro Bowl. It's not really my cup of tea. And when it got canceled, then it wasn't too big of a deal. As I apologize if I'm having to move my mic around, but there's that. So yeah, and then also definitely check out Let's Wine About Sports, where Mike talks about exotic wines, and he's even got me as a wine taster, which is absolutely funny. And he also talks a whole lot about sports, whether it's football, basketball, soccer, even women's sports. Definitely check out Mike Pat on Let's Wine About Sports every Monday at 5 p.m. Pacific Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. So definitely do check that out. Alright, so now let's get into segment 2 of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show, as we have approximately 49 minutes before the next show goes on. I'm sure we can get it all knocked out. Alright, so there have been a lot of sports going on. Like, there have actually been sports that I have been missing out on, such as swimming, and like swim and dive is one. This past weekend, the men's water polo has just kicked off its season, and then women's water polo will be following shortly after. So men's water polo happened last week. Unfortunately, the Big West Conference won't be partaking in that. So Long Beach State, UC Irvine, UC Santa Barbara, UC San Diego, all those have canceled their season because of the Big West canceling all fall sports. And even though there is no Big West Conference an actual Big West Conference in terms of men's water polo, it still falls under the umbrella that UC Santa Barbara, Long Beach State, and all those other schools in the Big West Conference are still under that threshold. So unfortunately, there's not going to be a whole lot of SoCal water polo in terms of the Big West Conference. But there's also other conferences. There's also other teams such as USC, UCLA, Pepperdine, Loyola Marymount, even Cal Baptist. I think something I noted was that Cal Baptist is in Division II, which I'm pretty sure that's correct. I'm not entirely sure. Speaking of Division II men's water polo, unfortunate news did just pop up this past week, as Concordia University of Irvine did have to cancel its entire season due to COVID and its guidelines and whatnot. So, unfortunately, Concordia is not going to be playing this season, and it's a bummer because I would have liked to have talked about them, but it is what it is, and hopefully, and at this point, everyone, the whole goal is to keep everyone safe and whatnot. So, yeah. So as for the water polo scores from last week, apparently there was this tournament that went on. It was called the Round 1 tournament, and it took place at Cal Berkeley. And Day 1 happened on Saturday, January 23rd, and USC defeated Cal 9-6, and then USC also defeated UCLA 12-7. And then it's also worth noting that Cal defeated UCLA 17-16. Yeesh! Talk about high scoring. Where was the defense? I'm kind of a big water polo guy myself, and I'm so sorry that my voice had a crack, but I'm kind of a big water polo buff myself, primarily because I kind of grew up in the Newport Beach area, and that's kind of what's big in these kind of parts, because the high school I went to was big on water polo, and yeah. So there's that. So other scores that happened on Saturday, January 23rd, was Cal Baptist defeating LMU 13-11 in the second of a back-to-back between the Lions and the Lancers, while LMU defeated Cal Baptist 13-7. Pepperdine defeated Air Force twice. I accidentally didn't get the second score, which is my bad. But the first score was 16-13 in favor. Or 16-9 in favor of the Waves. I'm just going to pull up the men's water polo score through the Pepperdine website, which, like I said, I really do apologize for not getting the second score. That was completely my bad. Like, with how much sports is going to be going on, because I don't want to miss out on a whole lot of sports. With water polo happening in terms of college, men's and women's tennis happening in terms of college, men's and women's soccer happening in terms of college, and then also swim and dive happening. I'm just going to test the waters to see on if this will take like a full 2 hours. If it takes more than 2 hours, then I got to find some way to shorten it. But with how there's not going to be a whole lot of football news until San Diego and Cal Poly play this spring in FCS play, it shouldn't be too much of a hassle. So Pepperdine beat Air Force the second time, 12-7. So that's not too surprising because Pepperdine does have a pretty solid team. They have a really good team. All right, so the second day of the Round 1 tournament at Cal, it featured Cal defeating USC 12-9, UCLA defeating USC 11-8, and then UCLA defeating Cal 10-7. So all in all, Cal, UCLA, and USC all went 2-2, which is quite surprising. USC went 2-0 on day 1, and then on day 2 they went 0-2. UCLA went 0-2 on day 1, but then went 2-0 on day 2, and then Cal, which isn't even a Southern California school, went 1-1. Anyway, as for the games this week regarding Southern California men's water polo in terms of college, we have Pepperdine playing at UCLA on Saturday, and then we have Air Force playing LMU in a doubleheader. The first game is at 10:30 a.m. Pacific time, and then the second game is at 2 p.m. Pacific time, and then the UCLA game against Pepperdine at UCLA will be an 11 a.m. Pacific start time. So there is that in terms of water polo, and that's pretty much it right there. I didn't really find any other games going on. USC isn't playing. I think Cal Baptist wasn't playing and whatnot. So yeah. But that's pretty much it for the water polo news. There will be more water polo news as the season progresses, especially in MPSF play or Mountain Pacific Sports Federation conference play. And I'm looking forward to that because I think USC and UCLA are both going to be really good. Stanford is also going to be up there. You also can't sleep on Cal, and then Pepperdine is also going to be talented as well. So all in all, it's going to be a fun season for MPSF play. So we'll have to see how the season progresses and what the season looks like. So that's going to be that for the water polo news. Let's go to college swim and dive. Now, college swim and dive was very tricky. I didn't know college swim and dive started a couple weeks back. So in terms of swim and dive, UCLA defeated Fresno State 177-115. And also, I didn't know, back on December 10th, San Diego State defeated San Diego 33-24 in a pentathlon, which I'm not really the biggest swim and dive expert. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't know, and I thought that was just a scrimmage, but I guess it counts towards the record. So it is the first event for both of those teams. So San Diego and San Diego State both got the early go-ahead when it came to swim and dive. But anyway, last week, or a couple weeks ago, on January 15th, we had San Diego State defeating Pepperdine 95-83. And then on January 16th, we had Pepperdine defeating San Diego 139-96. We also had Pepperdine defeating LMU 171-46. We also had San Diego defeating LMU 159-58. And then last Saturday, we had Cal Baptist defeating Biola on the men's side 182-109, and then Biola beating Cal Baptist 169-130. For those of you that don't know, Biola is primarily, I think Biola is a NAIA school. Actually, no, they're not. They used to be an NAIA school. No. Biola is now, I think they're an NCAA Division II school. Something along those lines. Either way, Biola went from NAIA all the way up to NCAA Division II because they were too good in the Golden State Athletic Conference. I know how good Biola was just because they had such good sports, one of which was women's volleyball. That always gave Vanguard a tough run. I digress. We're saving the volleyball for Tuesday. We're talking about swimming now. Anyway, now for the swim and dive meets for this week. So today we actually have Pepperdine and San Diego State meeting one another. Then we have USC at Cal on the men's and women's side. And then that's that for today. In terms of tomorrow, we have San Diego State at San Diego meeting one another in the swim and dive meet. Swim and or dive. Then we have USC at Cal in terms of the men's side on day 2. Then we have, I guess it's going to be a tri-meet for the women's side, as USC and UCLA will be facing Cal in a triathlon meet. I think so. Again, I'm not the biggest swim expert. I definitely want to make note of all the college sports, just so I'm not forgetting. Like, I was pretty late putting everything together, trying to get every sport that's going on, because none of the websites were really telling me which sport was having was having which sport going on. It was quite annoying. But anyway, I guess UCLA, USC, and Cal are having a tri-meet at Cal in terms of women's swim and or dive. And then I guess USC and Stanford are facing one another on the women's side as well in terms of swim. So, and then also on Sunday, there's UCLA at Cal in terms of swim and dive as well. So that's pretty much your up-and-coming swim and dive events, and that's pretty much your recap of swim and dive. Again, I'm not the biggest swim and dive expert. I know a little terms, but I just can't seem to get into a rhythm of it. Like, there's just a lot happening. Like, it's just tough. So, I apologize to all the swim and dive experts out there. I really do apologize. So, try not to beat me up too much. Anyway, so that's going to be that for swim and dive. So now let's go into some women's tennis. Women's tennis happened last week. So last week at the ITA kickoff weekend, UCLA defeated Cal 4-0, while USC defeated Denver 4-1, and then also Pepperdine defeated Wisconsin 4-0. And like I said, all of those were in the ITA kickoff weekend. And then on day 2, which was last Monday, looks like, yeah, Monday, UCLA defeated Texas A&M 4-0, while Pepperdine defeated USC 4-2. Apparently there's no events going on in women's tennis this week, which is quite the bummer, but it is what it is. So now let's jump over to men's tennis from last week. Last week, Texas A&M defeated Pepperdine 4-0. I believe that was in the ITA kickoff weekend. And then also in the ITA kickoff weekend, we had UCLA defeating Cal 4-0, and then we also had USC defeating UNLV 4-0, and then unfortunately Pepperdine and Michigan were going to face each other at Michigan, but because of COVID-19 protocols and a COVID-19 outbreak at Michigan, that was unfortunately canceled. Then on Monday, USC played UCLA in the championship match. I'm surprised there was even a championship match to begin with between USC and UCLA. And can we get a drum roll, please? USC defeated UCLA 4-1 in the championship match on the ITA kickoff weekend. Okay, it's not that impressive. It's just a kickoff weekend. We could save the applause for Pac-12 play, but it is good that USC was able to get that win. So, good job, USC. So, as for the up-and-coming Southern California College men's tennis games coming up, today, LMU and USC was supposed to play. I don't have the result of that. I'll be talking about that next week. And then tomorrow we have USC playing at San Diego. Then on Sunday we have UC Irvine playing at LMU. And then on next Thursday we have Boise State playing at UCLA. So that's pretty much your tennis news right there. Again, I'm not the biggest tennis expert. iSports Radio actually has a show called First Serve, and that was kind of what inspired me to get Set Point going. But that's for another day, and we don't know if First Serve is going to be coming back. I hope it does, but we never know. So that's pretty much going to be that in terms of the miscellaneous sports. Now let's go into everyone's favorite little topic, college sports. Not college sports, college basketball. So as for the college games that have gone on right now, UC Santa Barbara defeated, and this is men's basketball, UC Santa Barbara defeated UC Davis 72-51 in Big West Conference play. Like I said, Long Beach State and UC San Diego got postponed. Cal State Bakersfield and Cal State Fullerton play each other at 8 p.m. Pacific time, while UC Irvine at Hawaii face one another. Apparently, UC San Diego and Long Beach State are postponed and not canceled, but I can imagine it being canceled. As for the NCAA men's basketball games going on right now in terms of the Southern California teams, Cal Baptist is leading Dixie State 27-26. And that's cool. So yesterday we had poor little San Diego getting stomped on by number 1 Gonzaga, 90-62. We also had USC in the Pac-12 beating Oregon State 75-62, avenging an early season loss against the Beavers. Then we also had San Diego State defeating Wyoming 87-57. And to everyone's dismay, and to my dismay, UCLA and Oregon got postponed because of a COVID outbreak at Oregon, which is, once again, unfortunate. So now let's go back to Wednesday. We had Pepperdine defeating BYU 76-73. Fun fact about the Pepperdine win over BYU, that was their first win over the Cougars since February of 2017. That was a huge win for Pepperdine. I was like, oh my god. Pepperdine beat BYU. And it's been that long. That is why we love the sport of college basketball. Again, it's not that impressive. It took that long to beat BYU. I digress, though. But that was the only score that happened on Wednesday in terms of Southern California men's basketball teams. On Tuesday, we didn't have any teams going at one another. There were no games postponed or canceled. On Monday, we had Loyola Marymount just dominating Portland 75-50 in the West Coast Conference. And that, like I said, that was on Monday. Then on this past Sunday, we had San Diego State rolling past Air Force 91-59. And that was that because there were no other matchups scheduled for that day. So as for last Saturday, we had Stanford defeating number 24 UCLA 73-72 in overtime, or then number 24 UCLA 73-72, as Stanford won off of an inbound play, and the entire interweb was laughing at UCLA because they couldn't guard an inbound play. But I think UCLA is still doing fine. They're having a great season, and they should make the NCAA tournament. So everyone who's dancing all over UCLA because they lost, enjoy your dancing. I'm not a UCLA fan. I'm not the biggest UCLA fan, but I will advocate to say that they're still having a great year, and they're still leading the Pac-12. So for those of you doing the L dance in front of them, or basically just spamming their Twitter feed with L dances, or their notifications with L dances, you'll be stopping pretty soon. Anyway, back to last Saturday, we had San Diego defeating Portland 78-70, which was their first win in like forever. Again, not that impressive because San Diego hasn't really played a whole lot. But that was their second win of the season, and we are happy San Diego is back to playing some basketball. And I hate that they had that COVID outbreak because it's not fun, especially during these times. Anyway, as for the remainder of the Southern California men's basketball games, we had UC San Diego falling to UC Davis 78-71. We had Loyola Marymount losing on the road against Santa Clara, or losing at home against Santa Clara 72-69. We had Santa Barbara defeating Cal State Northridge 80-66. We had UC Riverside beating Bakersfield in a surprising upset 70-63. We had UC Irvine defeating Cal Poly 67-44. And we also had USC defeating USC defeating Cal 76-68, and then Cal State Fullerton got trounced by Hawaii 76-53, and then unfortunately for Long Beach State, in my books, but fortunately for Cal Baptist beat Long Beach State 96-75. And then BYU beat Pepperdine in their first matchup with one another, 65-54. So it's safe to say the Waves got revenge on BYU. And then last Friday we had UC Santa Barbara dominating Cal State Northridge 105-58. UC San Diego got it was their second Division I win. Yes, no, it was their first ever Division I victory over UC Davis, winning 89-69, which was awesome. And I'm happy for UC San Diego because it's always great to get that first Division I win because they had only beaten St. Catherine. It was even getting to the point where UC San Diego was the only undefeated team, and everyone was blowing that out of proportion. So yeah. Anyway, moving on. In a defensive battle, Cal State Bakersfield beat UC Riverside 47-45. Quite the impressive bout from UC Riverside, giving Cal State Bakersfield a battle. Anyway, UC Irvine beat Cal Poly 68-49. Cal State Fullerton beat Hawaii 83-97. San Diego State, wrapping up with the Southern California men's basketball games from last week, defeated Air Force 98-61. Which is some good stuff right there. As for this week, I already talked about some of the matchups that went on and some of the matchups that are going on later today. As for tomorrow, we have Loyola Marymount versus San Diego tomorrow, which is Saturday at 2 p.m. Pacific time. We have Oregon State at UCLA at 4 p.m. Pacific time. UC Santa Barbara against UC Davis at 4 p.m. Pacific time. Gonzaga at number one Gonzaga at Pepperdine at 5 p.m. Pacific time. And then we have Dixie State at Cal Baptist once again. And then we have San Diego State at home against Wyoming. Cal State Fullerton at Cal State Bakersfield. And then UC Irvine at Hawaii tomorrow. And then Oregon at USC is postponed because of the COVID outbreak. UC San Diego at Long Beach State is postponed because of the COVID outbreak and whatnot. So there are no upcoming matchups on Sunday. The upcoming matchup between Oregon and UCLA on Monday is postponed, which is unfortunate. Tuesday, BYU plays San Diego at San Diego on Tuesday. USC plays Stanford at Pauley Pavilion. That's going to be a makeup matchup between those two. Those two face each other on Tuesday at 6 p.m. Pacific time. That's going to also be televised on FS1, and that's going to be the only Southern California men's college basketball matchups going on. Wednesday, we have San Diego State at New Mexico, and then Thursday, we have Loyola Marymount at Gonzaga. We have San Diego at Pepperdine, and like I said, this is for this upcoming next Thursday, so just to write that in your little handy-dandy notebook. And then next Friday, we have Cal State Bakersfield at UC Irvine. That's going to be a big-time matchup in the Big West Conference. I wish it got the primetime treatment, but it didn't. Hawaii plays at UC San Diego. UC Riverside plays Cal State Fullerton. San Diego State plays its second match at New Mexico. Cal Baptist plays at New Mexico State. And then, unfortunately, Long Beach State at UC Santa Barbara has been postponed because of the COVID outbreak at Long Beach State. But next Saturday will be the matchup between UCLA at USC, and I'm hoping to call that game on USRN, and hopefully that game doesn't get postponed because I was looking forward to calling USC at Oregon and UCLA, Oregon at USC and Oregon at UCLA. So hopefully there are no more matchups that get postponed because I really want to call a game on USRN, but we'll see what happens. Anyway, now let's go to the standings. I don't know if these standings have been updated, but I'm pretty sure there have been no Pac-12 matchups that have been happening. So, on top of the Pac-12 conference is UCLA at 8-1, but USC is not too far off from them. They are 7-2, and then Colorado's kind of up there as well at 7-3, followed by Oregon, Stanford, Arizona, Oregon State, Utah, Arizona State, Washington, and Cal. And then in terms of overall records, UCLA is 12-3, while USC is 13-3. Both of them are having great seasons, and if all goes well, if USC and UCLA don't lose any matchups, next Saturday's game between those two is going to be really intense, and I'm really looking forward to that. So that's pretty much the Pac-12 in terms of men's basketball. Now let's go to the West Coast Conference, as we all know who's number one in that conference. It's Gonzaga. They're 7-0 in conference play, 16-0 in their overall record. Pepperdine is 3-2 in the conference, while LMU is 3-3 and San Diego is 1-4. Yay, San Diego is not winless in the conference. Hooray. And then in terms of overall standings regarding the Southern California teams, we have Pepperdine at 7-7, LMU at 8-6, and San Diego at 2-7. But I'm pretty sure no one's going to be catching Gonzaga because Gonzaga is just way too good, man. They're too good. It's just not fair, my dudes. Anyway, let's go to the Big West Conference in terms of standings. UC Irvine is currently ahead of the pack. They are 4-0, while UC Santa Barbara is 7-2, only a half game behind them. Cal State Bakersfield is 6-2, UC Riverside is 4-2, Long Beach State is 2-2, Cal State Fullerton is 3-5, UC San Diego is 1-3, Cal State Northridge is 1-4, and Cal Poly is 1-6. Also, I might as well just throw the non-Southern California teams in there. UC Davis is 1-2 in conference play, and Hawaii is 2-4 in conference play as well. As for overall records, UC Irvine is 8-4, while Santa Barbara is 11-3. Bakersfield is 10-5. Riverside is 7-4. Long Beach State is 3-5. Fullerton is 4-5. UC Davis is 3-4. Hawaii is 4-4. UC San Diego is 3-4. Cal State Northridge is 5-7, and Cal Poly is 3-10, bringing up the rear. And as for Cal Baptist in the WAC, or the Western Athletic Conference, Cal Baptist in terms of men's basketball is 2-2 overall, 2-2 in conference, and then they're 7-4 overall. So I hope Cal Baptist can win the WAC, because that would definitely help out USC and maybe Long Beach State, but more so USC. No offense, Long Beach State. I'm not trying to play favorites or anything. Anyway, San Diego State in terms of the Mountain West Conference, San Diego State is 6-3 in the MWC, while they are 12-4 overall. They're not too far off from a Colorado State, Utah State, and Boise State, as if they play their cards right, they could possibly do well in the Mountain West Conference, but it's still a long season. So that's going to do it for NCAA men's basketball in terms of Southern California. Now let's go to NCAA women's basketball in Southern California. So we've got ourselves a good matchup going on, as we have Long Beach State ahead of UC San Diego, 47-46. Long Beach State is actually undefeated, and I'm actually happy that they're going to be that they're still playing games, because not just because I'm a Long Beach State student, but because it's been last year was such a tough season for them, as they had a lot of tough close losses. Basically, they went the Chargers route, which is unfortunate for me to say. So there's that. Cal State Bakersfield leads Cal State Fullerton 65-52. Number 5 UCLA leads Arizona State 20-6. That game's only in the second quarter. Bakersfield and Fullerton are in the fourth quarter. Cal Poly beat UC Riverside earlier, 56-43. UC Irvine beat Hawaii, 82-68. UC Santa Barbara barely fell at UC Davis, 67-65. Yesterday, in terms of women's basketball, we had Wyoming putting a hurting on San Diego State, beating them 54-36. We had San Francisco beating Pepperdine 68-54. And that was that. On Wednesday, we had no women's basketball games regarding Southern California. On Tuesday, we had San Diego getting edged by St. Mary 63-56. And that was that. So on Monday, this past Monday, we had Pepperdine falling at San Francisco 64-56. And that was that. And then this past Sunday, we had Stanford steamrolling USC 86-59. We had Air Force edging San Diego State 58-55. And that was that for last Sunday's NCAA women's college basketball games from Southern California. Last Saturday, we had Loyola Marymount getting edged at St. Mary 69-65. We had Cal Baptist continuing their perfect season, beating Chicago State 67-52. We had Pacific trouncing Pepperdine 61-45. We had UC Davis beating UC San Diego 58-46. We had UC Irvine squeaking it out in overtime against Cal Poly 79-70. We had UC Riverside beating Cal State Bakersfield 64-45. We had Hawaii defeating Cal State Fullerton 57-43. And that was that for all the NCAA women's basketball games this past Saturday. So last Friday we had quite the exciting matchup as in terms of NCAA women's basketball in Southern California, as number 6 UCLA defeated then number 5 Stanford 70-66. Cal Baptist beat Chicago State 93-52. UC San Diego fell to UC Davis 80-62. UC Irvine defeated Cal Poly 63-52. UC Riverside beat Cal State Bakersfield 64-56, and San Diego State squeaked out a win over Air Force 59-54. Cal State Fullerton barely lost to Hawaii 49-47, closing out last week's NCAA women's basketball games. So as for the scores, or as for the up-and-coming NCAA women's basketball games in terms of Southern California, tomorrow we have Santa Clara at Pepperdine, San Diego State at Wyoming, San Francisco at Loyola Marymount, Cal Poly at UC Riverside, Hawaii at UC Irvine, UC Davis at UC Santa Barbara, Long Beach State at UC San Diego, Cal State Bakersfield at Cal State Fullerton, and unfortunately, San Diego at BYU and Cal Baptist at UT Rio Grande has been canceled or postponed. Then on Sunday, we have Arizona State at USC, Santa Clara at Pepperdine, and unfortunately, and this is a huge unfortunately, Arizona at UCLA has been postponed because of COVID and whatnot. Monday, Tuesday do not involve any NCAA women's basketball teams from Southern California, but Wednesday we have San Diego State playing New Mexico at home at 6 p.m. Pacific time. Then next Thursday we have Pepperdine at BYU. That's going to be on Thursday. Loyola Marymount at San Diego, and that's going to be that for all of the Southern California women's basketball games on the college women's basketball side next Thursday. Then next Friday, not to look too far ahead, but we have UCLA at Washington State, or number 5 UCLA at Washington State. We have San Diego at home against New Mexico, New Mexico State at Cal Baptist, UC Santa Barbara at Long Beach State, UC Irvine at Cal State Bakersfield, Cal State Fullerton at UC Riverside, USC at Washington, UC San Diego at Hawaii, and unfortunately, Cal State Northridge at UC Davis has been canceled because unfortunate reasons. Hold on, I'll be back for a minute. Sorry about that, everybody. Just had to make some adjustments, just get my phone in, get my phone charged and whatnot. Alright, so now let's go over the standings from all of the women's basketball conferences regarding every Southern California women's basketball team. So let's start with the Pac-12. So the Pac-12 is consisting of Stanford being all alone in first place at 11-2. UCLA is 7-2, but it's only because their games keep getting postponed and whatnot. USC is down below at 4-6, which is unfortunate for them, but it is what it is. UCLA is 9-2 overall, and honestly, that's a team that no one wants to see in the NCAA tournament. And then USC is 6-7. The entire Pac-12 is pretty much a top 15 school, as you have UCLA at number 5, Stanford at number 6, Arizona at number 10, and Oregon at number 11. It all depends on when Oregon and Oregon and Arizona are going to be facing one another, because those are all ranked schools, and that's going to be fun. That just means that the Pac-12 is no longer a football school; it's a women's basketball school. All right, now we're going to try to go hyperspeed. So San Diego State is currently 3-5 in conference play in the Mountain West Conference, and they're 5-9 in overall. They're having a tough time keeping up with all the other teams, but who knows? Maybe they can turn it around somehow, some way. As for the Western Athletic Conference and Cal Baptist is still a perfect 6-0 in conference and 14-0 overall. Good for Cal Baptist women's basketball. We are so proud of them. As for the Big West Conference, Long Beach State is still ahead of the whole pack. They are 6-0. UC Irvine is 5-0. UC Davis is 3-0, even though Davis isn't SoCal. UC San Diego is 2-3. Cal Poly is 2-3. Riverside is 2-3. Hawaii is 2-3. Bakersfield is 2-4. Santa Barbara is 2-4. Northridge has yet to play a game, and Fullerton is 0-6. As for overall records, Long Beach State is 7-1. Irvine is 8-5. Davis is 4-0. UC San Diego is 2-3. Cal Poly is 6-5. Riverside is 5-6. Hawaii is 3-4. Bakersfield is 4-6. Santa Barbara is 2-8. Northridge is yet to play a game, and Fullerton is 1-9. As for the West Coast Conference, let's just jump to those standings, and then we'll pretty much wrap it up from there in terms of college basketball. We have Loyola Marymount at 4-4 in conference, San Diego at 2-2 in conference, and Port Pepperdine is 0-7 in conference. In terms of overall standings, LMU is 5-8, San Diego is 5-4, and Pepperdine is 3-8. Gonzaga leads the conference as they are 9-0 in conference, and they're 14-2 overall. So that is pretty much that for the college basketball games and college basketball scores as of right now. Looking at this close matchup between Long Beach State and UC San Diego, it is 51-50 in favor of Long Beach State. This match is going down to the wire. I am so scared because this could either go great for Long Beach, or this could be somewhat bad. But as of right now, I think that's going to be it for everything on the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Just got to give one more shout out to our sponsors. The first one is Legacy Financial. Last year was a tough year. However, staying positive, keeping your faith, and continuing to work hard is the goal. If you're ever in a financial struggle at the moment, Legacy Financial is here for you. If you're doing well and want to get to the next level, you can give them a call. Also, if you're looking for a new opportunity to work for yourself and earn more money part-time, give Io a call at 510-928-2104 to book your appointment today. Io and her husband Andrew are just two people on a mission to help families build a legacy. You can follow them on Twitter at legacy_uncut and on Instagram at sims_uncut. Then our next sponsor for IE Sports Radio is Mom is Always Right Media. Are you feeling overwhelmed with school? Those essays keeping you up at night? Don't lose sleep. Just pick up the phone. Mom is Always Right Writing Agency will give you quality essays, and they will always meet their deadline. Sleep soundly knowing they are on the job. For more information, call 626-653-3649. And then you could also check out Mom is Always Right Media's podcasts, such as It Goes Down in the PM, Make sure you check out the new episode of It Goes Down in the PM, brought to you by Mama's Always Right Media. You can also check out their second podcast called Coffee After Dark. Don't miss the next chapter of your favorite love story. Check out the Season 2 premiere of Coffee After Dark, brought to you by Mama's Always Right Media, where they will help you open your business from start to finish. And then our last sponsor from IE Sports Radio is the Sports Rundown. Are you a sports fan but have too much going on in your life these days to keep up with the 24/7 sports news cycle? Or maybe you are new to sports and want to understand the sports world better. If so, then the Sports Rundown is here for you. They are a new podcast that gives you basic, professional, and collegiate sports news, stats, tidbits, and fun facts by the time you get to work, start that second cup of coffee, or finish walking the dog. Enough information to make you dangerous like Baker Mayfield while talking about current sporting events, and they will teach you something new, fun, along the way, like mascots, uniforms, history, feel-good stories, and sports rules. They even cover the Premier League, which is a soccer league. New episodes drop Monday and Friday mornings, which was today. So go give them a listen. And you can follow IE Sports Radio on Twitter at IE Sports Radio, and you can follow them on Instagram with the same handle. You can also like them and follow them on Facebook. Also, definitely leave them a nice little rating, because we are all dedicated people who want to provide great content, and we also wish to perfect our craft and make IE Sports Radio a household name. So definitely leave us a nice little rating, and definitely try to leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. It would really mean a lot if you did, and definitely try to subscribe to us, and definitely subscribe to us on YouTube. Even though we don't really post a whole lot of videos, we also all our shows also get posted to that as well. So, and also check us out on other platforms such as Spreaker, TuneIn, Spotify, you name it. And you can follow me on Twitter at Taryn Rodriguez1, and then you could also follow the SoCal Supreme Sports Show on Twitter at SoCal Show IESR on Twitter as well. As that's pretty much going to do it for tonight's episode of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show, as we're actually going to take one more peek of the Long Beach State UC San Diego game. Long Beach State is ahead 53-50 with just a measly 10 seconds to go. Justina King made 2 free throws as basically UC San Diego just couldn't get a bucket because Brianna Claros missed a jumper. And there's 10 seconds left, and Long Beach State will be looking to close the door and move to 7-0 in conference play, while Arizona is 31-16. UCLA leads Arizona State 31-16. And also, let's give Long Beach State women's basketball a little see-through on their Twitter updates. And yes, it's still 53-50 in favor of the Beach with 16.4 seconds to go. So I guess the ESPN app is a little laggy. So I'll be catching the end of that matchup on my own. But don't go anywhere, because in less than 10 minutes, the sports couple perspective with Larry B and his wonderful girlfriend Cecilia will be coming on. But without any further delay, it is time to get on out of here, because I gotta go get me some dinner, and I gotta go hear my boy Larry B do his thing. You feel me? Once again, thank you all for tuning in to the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Thank you for all of your support of IE Sports Radio. We are for the people, by the people. Without you, we don't really amount to much. Thank you to Andrew Hagenbaum for popping in the chat room, talking a lot about the Cavs and hoping that the Lakers do well. Really means a lot to you, brother. Definitely check out the State of Ohio Sports and also the Soccer Scoreboard Show, which is Andrew's shows. Definitely check out all of our shows on IE Sports Radio. Don't disappoint. Promise you what people buy the people and vice versa. For everyone here at IE Sports Radio and for our 3 amazing sponsors, this is Taryn Rodriguez signing off. Have yourselves a great rest of the night, and just remember, SoCal is the SoCal. Peace and blessings, y'all.